But yeah, so that's kind of an explanation why things have been so, I don't know, random.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that happened to your dad, but I'm glad that he just like walked away from it. It's kind of crazy because I
Mm.
like a couple or maybe just last year actually, or like a couple years ago, I like witnessed a car accident on the freeway.
Oh my
Like
God.
like we were driving and then like it happened like fortunately like right in front of me, not like fortunately I wasn't involved, but it was like it's kind of a similar situation. Like I saw it happen and it's crazy because the car flipped, like just
It's like
completely
slow
flipped over.
motion, right?
Yeah. And the guy just like God, I mean, like he was obviously dazed, but he just like walked out of the car and he was just like kind of like, what the hell just happened? And I was just like, I can't believe that like he was able to do that because it's just like, what the heck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was kind of mad, not mad, but I was like, my family sent like someone had sent the cops like a recording, and it was so quickly, so shortly after, and so like just seeing it made it very real. Like just, I think it's just this idea of like mortality, and I've been having this conversation with a couple people that like, um, I've always thought I was very death positive, and a part of me really does think that I am, but I realize like my family has always seen me as like a sensitive kid, and when people die, they kept it very like distant from me in the sense that like we talked about it, and my when my in Ghanaian culture, like especially depending on what where you are in the community, the celebrations are like days long, you know, and you're and there's music and dancing and crying. It's very public. Um and so we watched that on video growing up. And so I was like very fascinated with this idea of losing people. And I realized that my fascination is because it's always been like abroad. It's always been even so I think now that I'm like processing things through the adult lens, I'm like, oh, I never really dealt with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, enough about me.
Hello, Earthlings. My name is Andrea Afuakwamia. Welcome to The Only Black Girl on Mars, a podcast where we shine a spotlight on strong Black women who are shaping the world through their diverse strengths, paired with their unique perspectives and experiences. Welcome back to The Only Black Girl on Mars. If this is your first time to Mars, welcome, welcome, welcome. And for those of you who might have heard my intro, you might be wondering, she just said she spotlights strong Black women, and that I do. I have 9 full episodes on all audio platforms to listen to my podcast and hear amazing stories. I'll soon have those videos uploaded as well. But I do have my podcast open to interview women of color in all capacities. So please enjoy this interview with Diana Chow.
Like needing connection and community. And I think, what was the name of the group again? I always do this.
Live authentically.
Live
now,
authentically now. Yes, we have to give Catherine a shout out for us connecting. And so for anyone listening, there was a group during the very beginning, I guess almost a year ago now. A life coach named Catherine started a group called Living Authentically Now. And for a lot of us were in LA, but I think it was open because she put it as a Zoom link, where anyone who was like women who were feeling lonely during the pandemic or just weren't going outside. I know I hadn't gone outside for days. I think this is the anniversary of the weekend where I mustered up the courage to go to Trader Joe's for the first time. I know. Been a whole year. Now I go to Trader Joe's once every month. And we met and we just talked about our lives and what was going well that week and what was difficult that week. And that's where you and I met. What was that experience like for you?
I'm so glad and so fortunate that I connected with you and the rest of the ladies in that group at that time, because I really felt like, I think for me it's like, yeah, I had just moved to LA from San Francisco, and pretty much like either while I was unpacking my boxes still, or maybe right after I finished doing that, I was just like, okay, I want to like find people in LA to like connect with, because I had a couple friends who lived here, either like recently moved or had been living here for a while, but you know, definitely didn't know too many people, and like that was definitely one of my goals after like moving here. So it was really nice to find that group, and yeah, it was nice to have like just a kind of like a regular call with some new people that, you know, that I just met that were I guess valued similar things that I valued in terms of way of living and like connecting with each other. You know, what's going on in our lives and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a nice way to meet more people. And then like I think that was right after the pandemic hit and like lockdown started happening. So that was especially useful for me because it was you know, I couldn't meet people in person at that time. And it really helped me, I think, just feel a little bit more like connected to people during a time where just like living alone in a new apartment in a new city, like
that's a lot to grapple with, because even like when I first moved to LA, you know, I had work, but LA is different than New York, where like your work friends can become your real friends. In LA, everyone's like, okay, I'm going home now, like and then everyone goes their separate ways, and it takes a little longer to develop friendships. So I found myself, I think it was refreshing for me because I do have some friends that I developed from work, but it took almost the full year for us to develop that connection. And I felt like all of us having a similar need for connection, that it was faster. I mean, this is a confession, that I felt like a little bit like, oh my God, she's kind of cool. And I felt a little bit like, you know, like, I don't know, like I always was very curious about getting to know you, especially whenever we talked about like our family cultures and everything. So as much as it didn't seem like it, I was like a little nervous. I was like, oh, I want to like get to know Diana.
Oh, that means so much to me. That touches me. Thank you. I felt the same way about you. I think like I feel like as soon as you started like saying things in the group, and then like when we were talking to each other in the group and whatnot, like I felt like I wanted to get to know you better too, or definitely felt like, you know, a connection in terms of like life experiences and just like, I don't know, feelings that we were just going through in general. So yeah.
Friend fangirling, I love it. I mean, so I've told the audience a little bit already about your background, but I just wanted to give you an opportunity to sort of tell your story about sort of how you ended up in LA. So, I mean, I think for a lot of people who, you know, who believe and love in corporate brands and the excitement of them, will be excited to hear that you used to work for Twitter. But you know, it will be interesting to sort of hear about your perspective and how you originally got into software engineering before your new life venture that we'll discuss later.
Okay, yeah, definitely. How I got into software engineering. Yeah, I guess like I was fortunate enough to grow up around computers, like in my household, like growing up as a kid. My parents were both like working in the technology field. Actually, my dad started out as like a mechanical engineer, but like he eventually went to like software too. And then my mom used to like sell computers. So I was fortunate enough to have like one or two computers in the house, like as I was growing up. So I've always like kind of grown up around technology, really enjoyed it. And then like, you know, kind of like enrolled in my like the first computer science course in high school. And then like, you know, really connected with that and just kept going with that, you know, until I majored in it in university. And then I eventually moved to SF and like was working in tech for a long time. And I've always loved technology, and I feel like it's interesting that like currently I'm doing music, but it's like a mix of technology and music, because I'm making the music on the computer, and like it's very like technology based kind of music. It's like electronic music. So it's been interesting to see that like overlap happen over the years, but yeah.
Yeah, we talked about how I am so like antiquated in the music world. So I'm being a classical violinist. I asked for a keyboard thinking that I was like being so hip, and then I realized there was a MIDI keyboard and I didn't understand how it made sound. And
yeah, because you probably first plugged it in and you're just like, why isn't it doing anything? It's not
just like that cat meme, like I bet that cat is like also wondering like, why isn't anything working? Oh my God. It was like, if I hadn't been alone, I would have been really embarrassed. I'm a little embarrassed admitting it, but like, but I mean, I think that is really interesting because for one thing, you know, I think that having computer science classes so young is something that not necessarily unique to California, but I think it's something that California does really well. I know when my family lived in California when we were very young. I was still in kindergarten, going on to first grade, and we even had to take computer classes, which then in New York, it's not something that they did readily, but I think because it's such like a tech hub, so that makes a lot of sense. And my family had like one computer where we like had to take turns among four children and my dad's work.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, nice.
but I think that's awesome because one thing that I know there's such a pressure, and so I think growing up knowing that you love it and it being inherent kind of did you feel like a sense of satisfaction as you continue to develop your skills in it?
Yeah, I remember like one of my earliest memories like with technology, besides like playing video games on the computer and stuff, was just like starting to make like a personal website for myself and like putting more of myself online and doing that kind of stuff was really fun for me. Like I felt like, I guess that creative expression was really fun for me. And then to be able to just like program things into the computer and have it do what I wanted it to do and, you know, have some control over like this little area of like online real estate was like so fun for me. Yeah, so I definitely like enjoyed it. And I guess as I moved along in that software career, like, you know, it kind of evolved a little bit. Like I wanted to get more involved with like social media related technologies as that was like getting bigger. And then I worked at a couple startups before Twitter that eventually led me to like more social media based like work. Cause before that it was like, I worked at like a GPS fitness company and like, and like kind of like a social media for business kind of company. So it was like gradually moved me in a direction where I like fortunately landed at Twitter. And that was like really fun to be at and to work at. And the people there are great.
Yeah. Well, I love this narrative. So I love this narrative of you having a job that you do find fulfilling, but also having the realization that there's something else that you're very passionate about. And you mentioned briefly before that you have made the transition into music, and you're now an independent music producer. So I want to ask about that. So knowing that you did enjoy your career and that you had a great work experience at your last few companies, what was the plan? What was sort of the catalyst in you thinking like, it's time, I feel ready to sort of make this move?
Yeah, I wouldn't say, like, I definitely wouldn't say, I don't know if there was like a, you know, like one day all of a sudden I was like, I want to be like music producer. It was kind of, that was like a gradual transition too, because when I worked at Twitter, I happened to join like an interest-based group there, did like that practice a cappella like after work. And yeah, I was doing that. And I've always loved singing and I've loved music all my life, but it was always kind of like in the background and just kind of like passively, like, you know, kind of involved. And I don't know, I honestly attribute a lot of it to like the roots of it being part of that a cappella group. And I eventually went on to direct that a cappella group. And I feel like that made me even more proactive in like the music world a little bit, at least in my like creative music world.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was really, I don't know, empowering and allowed me to express myself creatively too. And it was just a lot of fun. So I think while I was doing that, and then I was also starting to do more music production at home as well, like after work and stuff like that. And just the more I did that stuff, the more I felt like my passion for that stuff just continued to grow.
Right.
And then like at the same time with the organization that I was a part of at Twitter, like the team, like organization structure, I guess, was starting to change. And I felt like timing wise, it was kind of a good time for me to just be like, oh, let me take like 6 months to a year and just kind of focus on the music stuff for a bit and see how I feel about it. Because I had taken a couple music production courses just before that, and like really just to like kind of involve myself a little bit more in that world, and then also meet other people who were kind of doing it full time, or, you know, dedicating their lives to it. And that was really like eye-opening for me, I guess, just to meet those people and to be around that sort of energy. And then I just decided to, it took a long time, probably took a year or two of me just kind of like contemplating it and just being like feeling it out and like, you know, and then figuring out what was happening with like the organization that I was part of within Twitter, and then deciding to finally do it. Yeah.
Right. How long ago was it when you first joined the a cappella group?
Yeah, I joined the acapella group, I believe, like the year I joined Twitter. So that was 2012, and then I stuck with that group, and eventually like directed a couple years later, I think. And then so that group, and then I was at Twitter for like 6.5 years. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, we were doing that for a while.
One of the things I found interesting, because of course I can't have you as a guest unless I stalk you a little bit and do my research, was your most recent interview where you talked about the song structure as you're directing an a cappella group. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and sort of why that played such a deep role in you knowing that the next step is production, and sort of how that correlates?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say, so while I was directing a cappella, that group at Twitter, like I started arranging some songs for us to do. Like normally we would find arrangements online and things like that to learn, and then I eventually like took a stab at just like, you know, writing like some simple arrangements myself for the group. And I feel like that just helped me break down and understand how different parts in a song could be laid out. Because I feel like a cappella is basically kind of like really bare bones.
Yeah.
You know, music, you have all the parts, but they're all vocal parts.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really interesting. And you sometimes have like either the bass is doing rhythm, or sometimes like a beatboxer is doing rhythm, but it's just very like pared down. And I think that's my first exposure, just trying to like note out songs, I guess, in those different parts. And then I was at the same time just like learning Ableton Live, which is like the software for one of many software that you can use to do music production. And then I felt like the knowledge and experience I was gaining with the a cappella group, and then just kind of mixing it in a little bit gradually with learning Ableton Live and stuff, I guess, you know, just introduced me to music production and like exploring more of how I can make music that way.
Yeah, I love this. It's making me realize how much of an impatient person I am, because you're like 2012 and I was like, I got Ableton a year ago. How come I don't know how to use it? I'm like, two things, Andrea. How many times did you open it? How many times did you try it?
No, I totally understand that. I totally understand. Because I think I guess I forgot, but I dabbled in like GarageBand like years before like the a cappella stuff. Like I remember my friend like Larry introduced me to GarageBand like way back in the day, and then like we even like made a small song together. But I think at that point it was like fun, but I still didn't understand like really how to produce music in it, you know, just kind of like throwing stuff together. But like I don't know, I just sort of like it I don't know, that passion wasn't like ignited, I guess, largely enough back then. But then I don't know, I guess after doing more music and maybe doing more of the a cappella stuff, like
things start to cement differently, right?
Yeah.
I think one thing that I find interesting about those of us that, you know, like, so when I think about LinkedIn, and we have this forward facing image and how people sort of expect us to be, because we're selling something that we can do, right? So for example, my LinkedIn image is like strategy this, strategy that. Yours is, software engineering. And so I was just curious sort of how you started navigating the language as were letting people know that, I do this now, or I'm transitioning into this career. Did you find it was it nerve-wracking, or did you find it organic as you went along?
It was definitely a little, it was definitely, I don't know if nerve-wracking, it's like maybe a little bit of nerve-wracking. I was definitely like thinking about it quite a bit, especially in the first year or so of like making the transition, and like, just unsure how to approach it honestly back then. And because I felt like I hadn't done enough music production to like really put that in my, in anything that was like bio related, and also like kind of worried like of how that would make me look on the software front. Like if I wanted to like do more tech work later or something, like would that just make me look like I I don't know, like completely ditch software, like don't have passion for technology anymore or something like that. But I don't know, I actually like, I kind of sought some advice from different people who had, or I guess different communities who have been more involved in career transitions. And like I think they sort of gave me a different, like a shifted perspective on it that helped me. And it's something that I still like am trying to figure out, because I feel like as time goes on, I do more music, I gain more confidence in it. But like definitely in the beginning, it was very just like, I'm not sure how to present myself in terms of like these two worlds.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I personally think you're doing a great job, because I think, you've been getting attention from people like with, you picked up the bass, you're sharing your work. So I definitely, I think it's one of these things where to us, as we are navigating our careers, everything feels so timely, but to the viewer, they're consuming so many other things that maybe like the shift is gradually happening versus like changing who you are in one day and people being like, oh, like what happened,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but I also love it because, and now I'm just generalizing, but I have a lot of like friends in CS at Spotify. And one of the things that I found so exciting, and we also all became friends we were all in a running club. And I just like to insert myself in, like computer science groups because I find it so interesting, but I can't do it. So, but
Oh, that's interesting. That's cool that you connect with those kind of groups, though, just kind of out of interest.
I've tried learning Python so many times, and it's not that I can't remember formulas really well. It's something that I've always struggled with in maths and chem, even though like I love them. So I think it's definitely something I could practice, but it's again like able to like, have I sat down to set the time aside maybe in the future? But a lot of these people, I find it so interesting because like they have so many talents that I just wouldn't know about because people just see them as engineers, and like from painting to hiking, and just like such unique, incredible skills. And I think I haven't done the research or like research to prove this, but I just think that tells a lot about the type of mind that is able to do coding and understand engineering, that it's so diverse. And I think that it's well, it speaks well to the ability to say like, this is also my identity, and I'm going to honor this right now. And so I love that. But but speaking of this, like, what are some of the key projects that you have been able to work on that have helped you build your confidence and have been sort of getting you a little bit of attention in the LA music scene?
Yeah, I guess like last year, so during the pandemic, one of my larger projects was with an artist who goes by the name Androgynous, and she was based in SF, but we worked remotely together because of the pandemic. And then, I helped her produce her first single, and that was like it was a really fun experience, and it was a great like learning opportunity for me to just work with an artist kind of like from the ground up on a song together. Because before that, I had mostly just been either producing my own material or producing. I also like produced music for a podcast.
Nice.
Like before that, but like that was kind of like I'm just like, you know, in my room producing music. But like this is my first, I guess, experience working with another artist and like working on their material and then producing it for them.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. And then more recently, like this year, I'm working with an LA-based artist named SHAYLA, the artist, and she's I'm collaborating with her on her music for like a short film music video that's gonna be released in April, so like pretty soon.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I like really respect her as an artist and a fan of her music. So
how long does that process take, like to hearing from a client or reaching out to, for example, like a short film? Do you come up with all the music? Is it very collaborative, or how does the process work?
Yeah, so this is my first experience doing any work related to film. And in this case, she has her songs written already, and like she already has the album released.
Right.
She wanted it to be like remixed for the film. So
Nice.
so yeah, I think like it probably would be different if she like didn't have that material already, and
Yeah,
it probably would
yeah.
have taken a lot longer. But yeah, it's been fun. Like I think it's mostly been like so been a lot of like mixing of the existing material that she has, and then there's a couple songs where I do more production on it, so I'm kind of like changing the genre a little bit or sprucing it up a bit more than just mixing. But yeah,
that's so exciting. I'm getting really excited. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
I can't wait to watch your film. Cool.
I feel like this is mostly it's her film, but I'm just helping with the music. But yeah,
I know.
I'm excited too. I'm excited.
Your film by proxy.
Yeah.
Why am I such a dork? I don't know. But like, I was talking to someone about this. Like, my family and some friends see me as having a little bit of a flat affect, and I know it doesn't seem like it because I'm like always quite smiley. But like, but it takes a lot for things to like get me really excited. But I was telling them, I was like, but I don't know why. Anytime, so like you can see these guys behind me, like I'm really into reptiles, and so like anytime someone mentions a dinosaur, I get like excited, like a small kid, and it's very odd. I'm just like, it's so funny. I'm like, what? I'm like, and so I was like telling my aunt, I was like, the trouble is I don't know what things are gonna excite me, so it's just always like it's like
it's a surprise. It's like all of a sudden.
Wow.
I love that.
Could be anything. Oh my God, a rock.
I feel like that makes like the impact of it like even greater. I don't know, when it just comes as a surprise for I guess both people, like you and like whoever you're with at the time.
Yeah, she really likes these things. So the funniest thing that happened is when I was a kid, and I used to make these birthday lists, and I like things that I want for my birthday to give to my parents, and I wanted to be fair, so I'd always put some like low ticket items on there, and there would always be socks on my list. I thought I was being really like strategic, and so my family just thought that I had like a crazy sock obsession, and so I can't describe to you how many holidays and birthdays that I've received unique socks because they just thought I was really excited about socks for like my whole childhood. Like, and I kept trying to explain to them, like, no,
so you did tell them eventually that it was just
eventually, but they just were like, we know how much you love socks. So
Yeah, it's funny how people can take like a small signal like that and just translate it to like, she must love, she must be so passionate about them. We gotta make sure she has every unique type of sock that she would possibly want. Like
this is why my excitement scares me, because I'm like, I'm not someone that's ever obsessed with anything. I just sometimes get excited. And so I don't want someone to fill my house with toy dinosaurs. One or two is enough.
You must have a really interesting sock collection. I'm kind of curious now. Like
I actually recently, before I moved to LA, I like got rid of a lot of stuff. So I finally am down to just like, but I used to have a lot of rainbow toe socks, like any, like, I have gotten some cool socks with like, the, like, Monet, like different art socks. So sometimes it has been a win, but I'm also just like, I like other stuff too. I do like tech stuff or like modern things as well.
Yeah.
I think the funniest gift that I received, which was like, not to call my dad out, but he definitely forgot our 14th birthday that year, because he came home with the bag, which was like a Walmart bag, and it had 3 different items in it. One was socks, of course. The other was a stuffed animal of Baloo, because I used to love Jungle Book. And then the third one was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I love, but he bought the 3rd book, so I didn't even have the first book. I was like, wow, this was like really like a stress run. Oh shit, I can't believe I forgot that the twins were born today run. But I'll never forget that birthday. Oh my god.
At least he tried to touch on like different areas of your presumed interests and likes, but
an age, I don't know. Time, I'm like, I think she's 8. I'm not sure, but we'll just get her age.
That's like, it sounds like it's like a birthday you're gonna remember for forever. Like
I mean, like, what actual cool stuff did I get that I don't remember? Oh my gosh. Wow. What an aside. I think our families are interesting from when we talk. How many siblings do you have again?
I have one older brother.
Okay. So you're the baby too. What was that like?
Yeah, it was. I don't. I guess it's what you would expect. I feel like my brother had it harder as the first child and being like the first son. I think there's like in Chinese culture, like I don't know how much it's actually overlapped with my family, but in Chinese culture, I think like the first son is like, big deal, like massive importance, has to be, like, I don't know, held to like a certain standard. But I don't know if that's like, I don't know how much of that was in my family, but
yeah, it's like that in West African culture for sure. Like it's kind of like the prodigal son. My brother, he was always up to something and like always got away with it. But my older sister, she's the oldest, and she was actually thought they were having a boy as their oldest, and she just like, she doesn't take no for an answer, so she is kind of like the prodigal child regardless. She's like, I don't care what gender I am. She's like, I'm still an only child. I still run the household. It's kind of funny. But I mean, I think I love that we're dual culture kids, and I think it makes these stories, everything we talked about with your progression of your career and what you want to do, it makes it so much more fulfilling in a selfish way for me to hear, just knowing that like we were navigating two worlds, like the world that we grew up in, like in American culture, and then like in our households. Do you feel like your culture or your family upbringing has any influence on your relationship with music as a whole, or like how you approach it?
Yeah, for sure. I think like growing up, for me, so I was like, I guess technically like what you call like a latchkey kid, where like I after school I kind of went home to an empty home and like walked myself home, and like spent a lot of time alone as a kid. And for me, like music was like a way to entertain myself and to I guess express feelings through listening to music that I, like resonated with at the time. And and I guess technically, like, because I was like learning piano at the time and taught myself guitar, so a little bit of like expressing myself creatively in those means too. However, like I wasn't really writing my own music at that time. I was mostly just like playing material that was given to me, or like,
Right.
looking up tabs and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know, spending a lot of time like alone as a kid, and I feel like, I don't know if it's how much of it is a cultural thing or just like, a family thing, but I feel like it was rare for my family to discuss feelings, like how people are feeling. It was, it was a lot of like accomplishments based like chat that I can remember, or like, yeah. So I feel like music was an outlet of like where the feelings are felt more, or like a safe place to like express them, whether you're listening to it or like actually expressing yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes so much sense. Um I think I was, I don't know if he'll agree with this, but I was 16 when like my dad gave me like a first full hug and was like, I love you. And it's not that he didn't say it in other ways, but it's definitely was a similar sort of experience, and I was quite shocked. But and I think my parents are no longer together, but violin was such an outlet for me. I think it was like drowning out my sound. It was the way that I could feel angry, because I'm not very much like I don't really know how to express frustration like as like a normal human. But I know that it allowed me to pour that into like the notes and the like the way that things swayed. And now I think it's interesting because as a fellow musician, I don't have that same relationship with music anymore. I don't need it that way. So now I'm trying to figure out how do I treat music as sort of like a now mostly even keeled adult, like when like what inspires you. And so I think it's like seeing musicians who are still able to connect with their emotions and also use it to like help. Because honestly, and tell me if I'm wrong, the way I think of it as a producer, you're helping people connect with the emotions that they're trying to express. Like you help them do that by taking pieces of what they give you and what you intuit and developing something new.
Yeah. I say that's exactly right.
Okay. I think it's such a unique skill, because it's, we talk about emotional intelligence and EQ from a verbal perspective, but I think that being able to I am a religious person, and I say this to people a lot. They don't always understand what I mean, but I think everyone, regardless of if you whatever religion you believe in, or if none, it doesn't matter. I think everyone has a different, unique form of prayer, and for some people, that's through notes, that's through music, or whatever sound rhythm. So I think it's a very important job, personally. You're not the same.
Yeah.
The same type of producer as DJ Khaled, but that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about DJ Khaled but, he probably does some of that too, like with the
Yeah,
artists
that's
that he
true.
works with. Like
Yeah,
he
he has to
collaborates with
connect with
people, right?
them.
Yeah.
I always find it funny because when I explain to people, like I explained to my aunt who DJ Khaled was the other day, and I was like, yeah, anytime you hear someone say "we the best," that's DJ Khaled. Anyway, not to rag on him, just teasing DJ. But I mean, so this kind of ties in a way to something that you and I talked about when we connected the other week about mental wellness and sort of, what that means for us. And in earlier at the top of our conversation, you mentioned moving to LA was a stressful, lonely time. So I mean, only insofar as you're comfortable, can you tell us a little bit about what challenges that you did have to go through during this transition? As as much as taking a year off is a little bit of a break, it's also a processing period. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's interesting because like that year, I guess 2019 was that year break where I focused on music, that first year that I focused on music. And like I feel like a lot of that year was like such a high for me because it was like I was really digging into music production and like starting to meet other people who were doing music. And this was back in San Francisco, and felt like I was connecting with people in like more meaningful ways, I guess. Um and but then, however, I guess towards the end of the year, like things started happening where it was just like, I guess I was like navigating that career transition still. And then like the long-term relationship I was in ended like towards the end of that year. And then there were just things in my family that were like changing in ways that I wasn't expecting and like didn't know how to like process really. So it was just a lot for me to, I guess, because, a lot of these large parts of my identity were just like changing or like just in states that I wasn't used to. And it was hard for me to like figure out how I felt about these things, how to process them, and like how to move forward from all of that stuff. And that's when I like sought like individual therapy. And like I was living with my partner at the time. So I was like also trying to navigate like where to live. Like, should I stay in San Francisco? Like, move to a different city? If so, like which one? Like, and yeah, so that seeing that therapist helped a lot just to process all of that stuff that was going on towards the end of that year. And it was my first time seeking out individual therapy. Like I'd done like couples therapy in the past and pretty recently to that period as well. So I was like relatively new to therapy, I think in general, but like that was my first time doing individual therapy. And yeah, I just like definitely I came out of it being like, why didn't I go to therapy like sooner? I feel like I could have really used this a lot sooner in my life. So I definitely highly recommend it to like anybody, just anybody, everybody. Yeah.
Was there anything in the past that kept you from going to therapy, or did you just not feel that there was a need for it prior to those challenges?
It was probably like at least low level, like the stigma of it is just like feeling like, oh, I probably don't need it, or like I don't think I need it. Like there's nothing like drastically happening that I need therapy. And also like I believe like the stigma was a part of it. It's just like, oh, like, yeah, like I don't need therapy just because,
Right.
like I don't know. Right. So I think I guess the shift in how therapy has been portrayed like over the past handful of years has definitely helped shifted like my mindset about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. I think that it is such a scary thing, and I know some people don't always get lucky to have like positive first experiences. So but I think it's you got lucky, which is great. I think that's fantastic that you met someone that you connected with And so for anyone listening, like if that isn't your first experience, like do know that there are so many therapists out there in the world that are willing to help you, that might connect with your personality better, who might actually specialize in the things that you need. And that, I know it sounds exhausting, like while you're dealing with depression or a life trauma, to want to have to seek, but the end result, in my opinion, and Diana, as Diana mentioned, like it really does make a difference, for just how you can reflect on things and get over really difficult experiences. Yeah.
Definitely.
And you said that you had used BetterHelp. Is it BetterHelp? I can't say it.
Yeah, BetterHelp. Yeah.
I'm like, am I saying better health or better help? Better help. I'm just reinforcing it, guys. Yeah, better help. You said you used that for a time when you were in LA. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience is like and what people can expect?
Yeah. So I started using BetterHelp like a few months into the pandemic. I think it was largely like dealing with the social isolation and just general craziness of that time. And that was my first time seeking it out, any sort of like online related therapy, because the therapist I saw in SF was like an in-person, kind of like your traditional like method. And then obviously with the pandemic and everything, I was like looking for something that could work like remotely. And yeah, it helped a lot. I think they let you do, like you can chat with the therapist like via text or like their messaging platform or whatever. But then you also get like a video call. I believe it's like once a week. And it's like, they also support like low income like plans and stuff like that. So that like helped a lot too. So yeah, I highly recommend them. I guess I got like lucky with the therapist I was connected with through them as well. But yeah.
I think like for me, I always see the BetterHelp ads on Instagram. I don't know if they know that I'm just like a depressive person, or if they're just like bought ad space everywhere. But I think so. For people listening, like this is not sponsored, so I really was curious for people listening, like, is this something that they should try? And it just, every time I talk to someone, they have good things to say about it. So that's really encouraging. So if you can't afford therapy, or if you are, you don't have insurance right now, it's worth taking a look at that. But honestly, I know this is just the tip of the iceberg for all the things that I feel like are coming your way in the next year to come. So I guess,
thank you.
I'm really excited. And just to close, like I wanted to ask you, end with two questions. And the first one is sort of like, what is something that you look forward to for yourself, in the next few years? It could be music related or just personal, in terms of your growth and your goals. And then the second question is, for individuals who really aren't sure where to take that first step, what's one small piece of advice that you would give them that you learned throughout your journey?
Yeah, those are good questions. I guess to answer the first one, I think so more recently I've been getting into like a bit more of like live performance and just performing like my original material, that includes like whether it's like electronically produced, but then it has like my vocals on it. And I've been more just like gradually becoming more comfortable kind of exposing that stuff to other people, because I think for the past couple of years it's mostly been like stuff that I've produced on the computers, like instrumentals, or maybe I use like vocal samples from other libraries and stuff like that. And I've worked on my vocal production stuff, but just pretty much it still stayed on my computer and like in this room for the most part. And so I'm gradually becoming more comfortable sharing that stuff and also like live performing it, which has been really gratifying and like exciting and fun for me. So I hope to do more of that like this year, and like my plan is definitely to like release some of that material like more broadly on like I guess where people find music, you know, Spotify or whatnot,
Spotify
like
for
that.
artists,
Spotify,
yeah. We gotta see
iTunes,
your
whatever.
stats.
Yeah, so I'm excited to do more of that. And while I continue to like work with like artists to help them express themselves, because I really enjoy like both parts of it. And then I guess to answer the second part of your question, like with like, I guess what was it, like small steps?
Yeah, for anyone who
that they
is
make?
deciding to make a life transition, or you know, even if it's just a title change, you know, what is some advice that you would give them?
Yeah, I would say like I think it's like it can be mind-boggling and easy to get intimidated by the idea of like making a huge change all at once. But I guess my advice would just be to make small changes in your life, like even if it's like one small change a day, like whether it's like, oh, I'm going to decide to like meditate for like 5 minutes every day or something, or I'm going to try to take a bath instead of a shower like today, or you know, start like rekindle an old hobby, or like try a completely different hobby that you would never normally try. I think just those small steps like gradually lead to like larger changes. So I would just focus on making like small changes.
Yeah, reframing how you see yourself first. I like that. So
yeah.
well, I want to thank you so much for your time, your insights, and for sharing your story. I probably could talk to you for much longer, but you know, for the sake of the timeline, this is where we're capping it. But I honestly would love to, you know, you're always welcome back to this show, and we're gonna continue to watch your journey, and yeah, this has been so wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for having me on this. It's like been an honor to be here and to talk with you about these things.
It won't be the last, I promise. My dinosaurs promise to.
Yay.